Now today, we did a little bit of review of what we were kind of messing with last time. I have you solve for x using the different angles that were given below. And there is still a little delay, but I think we're going to have to just bear with it. I don't think there's much more we can do. Uh-huh. It kind of is. So let's look at number 1 first. How would you go about setting up an equation for number 1 to figure out what x is? What'd you do, Malachi?
I did x plus 47 equals 90.
Perfect. So why did you know to do x plus 47 equals 90? How'd you know that?
Uh,
I know.
well, I took my protractor, found that the angle was 90, which, see, is the whole square,
Yeah, that little box tells us it's 90 degrees.
and just tried different equations. Trying to remember what we learned in previous lessons, and I looked over, I was like, oh, I just take the number that I already know and minus it.
Perfect. Perfect. So it looks like you could tell that this here, because of this box that's drawn in the corner, is a 90-degree angle. So if I add the two angles within this 90-degree angle, it should come out to 90 degrees. So if we set up this equation as x plus 47 equals 90, we can solve for x by doing the opposite to the pieces in our equation. So if I have plus 47 here, and I'm trying to get x by itself, it sounds like you did minus 47 on both sides. Okay, I'll write that in. Minus 47. Little delay, but you'll see it. Okay. And then once you did that, you know that these are going to cancel out, the plus 47 and minus 47. Give it a minute. It will cancel. Okay, there we go. I know it. And then what is 90 minus 47? 43. Is it 43? I think that sounds right. 43. So for your answer, you should have gotten x equals 43. Anybody get something different? Okay, awesome. Well, that is perfect. Go ahead to number 2. Okay, so how do we set up an equation to solve for x in number 2? X plus number equals 180. Yes, you're going to do x plus our other angle, which is 59 degrees, equals 180. Now, how did you know that you were going to set this equal to 180? The straight line? Yes, because it's a straight line. It's a straight angle, and straight angles add up to 180 degrees. So we'll do the same thing as before. We'll try to get x by itself. So if I've got plus 59 with my x, I'm going to subtract 59 from both sides. My 59s will cancel. Give it a minute to catch up. And then 180 minus 59 is what? 121. Did everybody get 121 for x? Awesome. No, that's perfect. Please. People watching this video later aren't going to be able to see all the issues that are happening right here. Thankfully. Uh-huh. Okay, I want this to turn off. Because yeah, in the video it looks like everything is going perfectly. Little do y'all know that are watching this, our board is absolutely freaking out on us. Okay, let me try this again. Come on. Okay. Is that better? Oh, yay. And there's no delay. I hope it stays like that. Okay. Any questions about number 2? Everybody get that answer? Good. Let's try number 3. This one was a little tricky, but I bet some of y'all got it. So when I'm looking at number 3, somebody tell me what's going on here. Exactly. This is a little different from what we've been doing. Yeah, we've got, yes. So what we've really got going on here is an angle that is open so wide that where it's opened up, it's gone all the way around and done a 316-degree rotation. So we're going to have to add this angle, this big old angle, 316 degrees, plus X degrees. And we're going to set that equal to what? You guys know? 360. Yes, 360. How did you know it was 360? Times 2. Ooh, yeah, that's a good way to do it. So we know that if we have a straight angle like this, where there's 180 degrees, that's doing the rotation of half of a circle. So if you just add those together, you're going to get that whole circle for 360 degrees. So anytime we have a circle, it's 360 degrees. So that's perfect. So you guys tell me, what should your equation look kind of like for number 3? Mhm. Perfect. X plus 316 equals 360. Okay, so how do I solve for X here? Perfect. I'm going to subtract 316 from both sides of my equation. My 316s cancel out. And what is 360 minus 316?
44.
44. Is that what everybody got? Yeah. X equals 44. Perfect. Awesome. Any questions about number 3? Okay, let's try number 4. Yes, yes.
If we would have just if you would have just measured that angle with the protractor, you would have got the same answer, right?
You probably would. It might be the tiniest bit off with the drawing. So the point, whenever we are solving for X with angles, we don't want to rely on our protractor because sometimes the pictures won't be perfectly accurate. Yes. So the only time that I want you to rely on a protractor is whenever I give you an angle and I specifically say, use your protractor to measure this. If we're solving for X, we want to think more about what should these angles add up to. But that's a great question. If it was drawn accurately, you absolutely would be able to do that.
It worked for me.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad. Good. I tried to draw them pretty accurate, but I'm not perfect. Okay, let's check out number 4 now. We have something a little different. We haven't done one like this before, but I feel like you guys could definitely do this. We've got an angle right here that's 32 degrees. And the other angle, the larger one, says not just X, not just the number, but it says X plus 27 degrees. How would we go about setting up this equation? Yes.
X plus 27 plus 32 equals 180.
Yes. Oh, that's perfect. So really, all we're doing is taking this value, putting it over here, X plus 27, plus this 32 degrees, plus 32, equals, we know that when we add all that together, because it's a straight angle, it'll be 180 degrees. Perfect. So how would we solve this? Yeah. So there's a couple ways we could do this. You could either subtract 27 and subtract 32 from 180, or before subtracting, you could say that since these numbers, 27 and 32, there's no variables attached to them, they're just normal numbers, we could just add them together first. So let's do that. What is 27 plus 32? 59. So we're just combining those first. Okay, so now we have x plus 59 equals 180. So what would we do after that? Yeah, subtract 59. Perfect. Now, is anybody confused about why we were able to add the 27 and the 32? We all feel good about that? Good. So then my 59s cancel. Bring down my x equals, what is 180 minus 59? 121. Perfect.
Honestly, did you realize you gave us the exact same?
Yeah, very similar ones. Very good job, guys. Okay, that's wonderful. So, yeah, it really does, doesn't it? I didn't even realize that. That's funny. We got the same answer for number 3 and number 2 and number 4. And we know that that is still okay because we were just solving for x here. So this angle is 121 degrees for number 2. But in number 4, is this angle 121 degrees?
No.
Yeah.
No. What's 121?
X.
Yeah, just the x. So we're going to be adding 121 plus 27, and that will give us the degrees of this larger angle.
148.
I think so. Let's see. 121 plus 27. 7 plus 1 is 8. 4, 148 degrees. Yep, you are correct. Perfect.
I'm glad I just thought of that.
All right, guys, I'm going to pause this and grab my notes.
Extra things I do.
The little frillies of your edges.
Like,
I know it.
when you care about how they're supposed to go along the line, it just leaves a little fun that irritates me.
I know.
So
Bugs
I
me
have
too.
to-
All right, so we're going to talk about angles around a point today. So if you guys could go ahead and try to copy this picture where we've got 2 angles. Doesn't have to be an exact drawing, but we've got 2 coming off of a point here, and then there's also a third angle. It's just really large. We're going to label those A, B, and C. We're going to do some tricky stuff today. So once you've got this kind of copied down, I want us to come up with a statement about these angles. So what do you guys think would happen if we were to add A, B, and C together? How many degrees is this going to be?
Exact.
No, they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be anywhere near perfect. That's all
I
right.
can get the line straight, but that's about it.
That's all that matters. No big deal. So as you're drawing these though, if I added these 3 angles together, angle A, angle B, and angle C, how many degrees would these add up to, do you think?
360.
360, exactly. Whenever we have angles around a point, these are just angles that can be arranged together that form a full 360-degree turn or a circle. So we're going to write out a little statement. I'm going to say angle A plus angle B plus angle C equals, we can say that they're equal to 360 degrees. Just like that. So we know that we can add these angles together and get 360 degrees. But what if I gave you some values for these angles and I had you solve for x? So I'm going to write some values in. I'm going to say that angle A is 270 degrees. I'm going to say that angle B is x plus 35 degrees. And I'm going to say that angle C is 4x degrees. So now we've got a little bit more complicated of a problem here. I'll give you guys a minute to copy that down. So angle A is 270, angle B is x plus 35, and angle C is 4x. I'll let everybody get caught up. I'll pause it while we're waiting and move forward here. So does anybody have an idea of how I could set up an equation using all these details I've given you here to solve for x? Yes, Greg.
6 plus 35, or x plus 35 plus 4x plus 270 equals 360.
Yeah, okay, so how'd you know to do that?
Well, you have the formula up there. Angle A plus angle B equals, or plus angle C equals 360. So I just
Yes.
put all those angles down.
Yeah, so you literally just took these values and plugged them in to this statement here. We've got angle A is 270, B x plus 35, C 4x. And Ella, to answer your question, does it have to be in that order, or can you put it in another order? Whenever we add numbers, it doesn't matter what order we do it in. So I could do 270 plus x plus 35 plus 4x. I could mix them in complete reverse order. I'm going to get the same answer every time.
Does that matter if it's parentheses though? Or that you automatically put down front?
Good question. Does it matter if there are parentheses? In some cases, it will matter. However, here, it's not going to change our answer. So we can put it in any order. That's a good question to ask, though. I'm just going to put it in the order of this original equation here. So A was 270. So I'm going to write 270 plus B, which is x plus 35, plus C, which is 4x, equals 360.
And then let's rewrite it.
Yes. Yes, so we've got a lot of things going on here now. This is a complicated equation. So what Ella was just talking about, I think the word you're looking for is like terms. Have you guys ever heard of like terms? Awesome. So we have some numbers here that we could combine before trying to solve this. Let's start from left to right. I've got 270. So that's just a number without any variable. Do we have any other numbers without variables?
35.
35. So we know that we can put these together. And what is 270 plus 35? I think it is 305. I'm really bad at mental math, but that's
why I put this.
what I'm getting. So we've got 305 here. I like to cross them off once I've added them together, so I know I'm done with them. And then I've got an x here. Do I have any other numbers with x's? Yeah, 4x. So I want to combine those as well. What is x plus 4x? 5x. Perfect. Yes. Is anybody confused about how we got 5x here? Confused a little?
Just a little.
Okay, that's fine. So basically all we're trying to do here is see how many x's do we have over here total. If I have x written down and there's no number next to it, how many x's am I looking at right now? 1. So I know I have 1 x here. Over here, it tells me I have 4 x's. So if I'm adding 1x plus another 4 x's, I'm going to have how many x's total? 5 x's. Perfect. So we just write plus 5x. Does that help clear it up a little bit? Okay, good. All right, so we've done all of our combinations. We're done with that. I'm just going to bring down that equals 360. Okay. So now we're left with 305 plus 5x equals 360. Do you guys know what we need to do next? Yes, we want to subtract 305. Does anybody know why we're going to subtract 305 first instead of messing with the x's?
You're trying to get the x by itself.
Yeah.
And also, if you divide the 5 or 4, you do the 305. It can tamper with the number due to it not being the right number.
Yes, yes. So let me explain this in the simplest terms I possibly can. Whenever we are solving an equation for a variable x, we are working backwards. So if you guys remember the order of operations, like your PEMDAS, we do parentheses and then exponents. I've got a little poster up there. We usually do our multiplication and division first, and then our addition and subtraction. When we're solving an equation, we do the opposite order. So I have here plus 305, and I have 5 times x. Because we're working in backwards order, we actually want to do our addition and subtraction first. So we're going to first subtract 305 from both sides. Okay, and what happens when I do 305 minus 305? Yeah, it cancels out. We're done with that. So now we need to bring down our 5 times x, our equal sign. And what is 360 minus 305?
55.
55? Everybody get that? Perfect. Okay, so now we're here. 5 times x equals 55. What should we do? Divide by 5. So is anybody confused about why we're going to divide by 5 here?
Yeah.
That's okay. So whenever we are trying to get x by itself, lately what we've been doing is a lot of just addition and subtraction. So if it's x plus something, we do the opposite and subtract. If it's x minus something, we do the opposite and add. Right now we have x times something. This means 5 times x. If we want to get rid of multiplication, we use the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So that's why we will divide by 5 here, because 5 divided by 5 is 1. We want there to be 1x left on this side. So those 5s are gone. We've got our x. We want to do the same thing to both sides. So 55 divided by 5.
11.
11. Good.
Right, once we started, it kind of just solved them.
Yeah. So this one's a longer process, but we're still able to do it.
What's the light color tint that keeps changing? Because it just with bright things going dark and it goes back bright.
You know, I don't know. I see it. It's like changing from really dark yellow to very white. I don't know. Our board is just being goofy today. So we know that we can take all these values, add them up, combine our like terms, solve for x. Okay, and if anybody feels like they're going to want a little more practice on solving these more complex equations, make sure to try and come see me and we can work together one-on-one. Absolutely. And let's talk about one more thing. Okay. Okay, so this is angles around a point. Those are always going to add up to 360. Now, the next thing I want us to talk about is what happens when we have parallel lines like this. So here's another page. I've got 2 parallel lines right here, and I've got a third line crossing through it. So when 2 lines are parallel and a third line crosses them both, this third line is what we call a transversal. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a minute to copy that down, and then we're going to talk about what kind of angles a transversal forms, because there's all kinds of stuff we can do with this. And whenever we work with the parallel lines with a transversal, this was always my favorite part of angles in geometry because I think it comes out to be really satisfying. So your drawing does not have to be perfect. Yes. Yeah. So I'll give you a minute to get that copy. First of all, whenever lines are parallel, what do we know about parallel lines? We talked about a couple of little things that we can recognize about parallel lines. You guys remember any of those things? Or you guys might have been gone the day we talked about them. Can't remember. Are these lines ever going to touch each other? No, they will never touch each other because they are going at the same angle forever and ever and ever. They will never change. So if this transversal, this third line, is crossing through these lines that are at the same angle, what can we say about angle, for example, let's say angle A and angle E? What can we say about these angles?
They're the same.
They're the same, yes. So let's label this. I'm going to use red. Angle A and angle E are the same. I would say that like this. Angle A is congruent. You guys remember saying that word? We didn't talk about it in detail yet, but this is how we write the congruent symbol. It's an equal sign with a little squiggly on top of it. Good question. Congruent means that they are exactly the same. It's a fancy word for they are the same. So angle A is congruent or the same as angle E. Yes, they'll be exactly the same. They are carbon copies of each other. We call these corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are congruent. Corresponding angles are congruent. Now, what about, and here, I'll give you guys a minute to write. Those are some large words. They take a minute. Pause it. I want you guys to tell me if there's any other angles that are corresponding with each other here.
B and F.
B and F, yes, those are corresponding angles. So let's label them differently. We'll put 2 arcs here because they are not the same as A and E, but they are the same as each other. Yeah, so B and F are also corresponding. Angle B is congruent to angle F. They are corresponding. Are there any others?
D and H.
D and H, yes. Now I'm going to put 2 arcs on these as well. I'll talk a little more about why in just a minute. So D and H are also corresponding. Angle H. And do we have any others? C and G, absolutely. And we're just going to put 1 arc on C and G. Angle C, angle G. Here we go. These are all the corresponding angles. So our corresponding angles are the ones that fall in the same place as one of the angles above. So I know G is in the same place as C is. H is in the same position as D is. E is in the same position as A is, F and B. But what else do we notice here? Other than the corresponding angles, we actually do have some other angles that are matching each other.
What is, to the house, reason we did the double still line up because they're the exact same size.
Yes, the diagonal angles. So thank you for pointing that out. We've got a whole other few set of angles that are going to be the same too. We've got A and C are congruent. We've got E and G that are congruent. H and F are congruent. D and B are congruent. The angles that are across from each other will also be congruent. So these are called vertical angles. So we've got vertical angles and we've got corresponding angles. Scooch this up just a little bit. So now that we can see all these different angles within this set of parallel lines with the transversal, what if I gave you the measure of just one of these angles? I want to see, I bet you guys could solve for every single other one and tell me what they all are. What if I knew that angle B was 20 degrees? Could we then name any other angles with this information?
Angle B and H.
Yeah, angle D, F, and H, they're all going to be 20 degrees. Let's write that in. 20 degrees for D, 20 degrees for F, and 20 degrees for H. Perfect. So we've got those measures. And is anybody confused about why we know those are all 20 degrees, or we feel okay about that? Okay, good. So if we know these are all 20 degrees, what would the measure of the other angles be? How could we figure that out? This one's a little tricky. Yes, Ella, that's perfect. So I love that Ella said that. Let's notice something. I am going to cover up part of this problem here. Look what's happening. We've just got a straight angle right here. A and B, when you add them together, how many degrees is that going to give us? 180. It's a straight angle. So I know angle A plus angle B, which is 20, is going to be 180. So let's write out a little problem here. I'm going to say A plus 20 equals 180. Does everybody feel okay about that? Or is anyone confused about how we got that so far? Everybody okay with that? Good. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve that. What would I do here? Yes, subtract 20 from both sides. I'm going to cross off my 20 and negative 20. Bring down my A equals, what is 180 minus 20? 160. So angle A, we know that it is 160 degrees. So now that we know angle A is 160 degrees, can we figure out the rest? Yeah, we sure can, because angle A and angle C are vertical angles, so they're congruent. So I know angle C is 160 degrees. Angle A and angle E are corresponding, so they have the same measure. They're 160. And then angle E and angle G are vertical angles, so they're both 160 degrees. There we go. So whenever we have parallel lines, if we know one angle, we know the others as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we can find the other 7 if we just have one. Pretty handy little trick there. Okay, you see what time it is. We've got a little time left still. I hate that we spent so much time with the internet being weird.
Very stubborn.
I know. I'm gonna pause this and I'm gonna give you guys a little worksheet. We're gonna do some of these together. Okay, so we are moving forward. Let's look at this worksheet I just gave you. And all that's happening here is we're doing a whole lot of what we just have been doing. We've been working on this all together. Let's look at number 1. So number 1, can somebody tell me what is going on here? How am I going to figure this out?
27 plus 360.
27 plus 360? Would that give me my x?
You're gonna do
Or,
plus 27 equals 360.
Yes, perfect. So you were super close there. It's easy to get those mixed up. But I know that these two angles added together, because they are angles around a point that's being shared, this is going to create a full 360-degree turn. So I'm just going to add these together and set them equal to 360. So x plus 27 equals 360. And what would I do next?
Minus 27.
Good, minus 27. And what's that going to make our x? 360 minus 27. Let's see, yeah, somebody get a calculator. Tell me. 333. And once we get an answer, I always want you to circle it, because there's going to be a lot of numbers and things on your paper. So it helps me find out what your answer is. So yeah, for number 1, x is 333. Does everybody understand how we got to that answer? Awesome. Let's try number 2 together now. What kind of angle do we have here overall? Yeah, this is a straight angle. It's going to give us 180 degrees total. So how am I going to set this equation up? Yes, x plus 12. So that's this smaller angle, plus 145, the larger angle, equals 180. Perfect. So what should I do here first once I've got my equation written down?
Find O and
Yes, let's combine our like terms. What is 145 plus 12? 157. So I'm going to rewrite that below. X plus 157 equals 180. Once we've got that, what do we do next?
Yeah.
Good. We're going to subtract 157 from both sides. My 157s will cancel. And I will get x equals what? 23. Is everybody getting that same answer? 180 minus 157, 23. Okay. Any questions about number 2? Any questions at all? Anybody confused? Yes.
Number 2 was supposed to equal to 360. Or, wait, never mind. I see right now.
Okay. Good, good. Yes. So if it was more angles coming out of the bottom, this is half a circle here. So that's just going to be 180 degrees, that straight angle. And remember, we talked about in past lessons, when 2 angles add up to 180 degrees, we call these supplementary angles. That's what these are. Good. Any other questions? All right. If not, let's move on to number 3. Okay, number 3. I've I've got two angles here. One of my angles is 59 degrees. My other angle is 5x plus 4 degrees. Now, if I remember correctly, I think this is, no, I'm thinking wrong. There's one of these angles that I was making the problems and I accidentally gave you a decimal answer. This one's not a decimal, it's a different one. What are we going to do here? This is a little different.
Maybe like we're gonna have 2 lines to find its lines.
We could do that. We could see what we know that 59 and this angle makes 180. Is that what you're talking about? Okay, so we could figure that out and then set that plus that equals that. But there is a quicker way. There's a quicker way. Without thinking about what the measure of these two angles are, what do I know about these two angles? Corresponding. These are corresponding angles. So we just talked about this. We have two parallel lines here because they've got these to tell you that they're parallel. These little arrows tell us these are parallel. And here's our transversal. So we have two angles that are crossing lines going at the same slope, the same downward angle. So they're going to have the same angle here. These are corresponding angles like we just learned about. So what do I know about the measures of these angles? If they're corresponding, they equal the same thing. So instead of trying to do this plus something equals 180 or doing a 90 or a 360 even, I know that 5x plus 4, whatever this is, it's equal to 59 because they're the same measure. So I could just do this. 5x plus 4 equals 59. Is everybody okay with that? Yeah, it's a new thing we're doing today. It's a little tricky, but it makes a lot of sense because these are congruent. They have the same measure, so we can just set them equal to each other. They are equal. So now I have an equation set up. Before we start solving it, I want to open the floor to any questions we have. Does anybody feel confused in any way about why we can set those equal to each other? Or do we all feel pretty good about it?
So as long as they're parallel, there would be whatever that word was.
Yes, yes, congruent. So when we have parallel lines and a third line is crossing through them, all the angles that line up, like if I'm going across, I'm going to start here. First angle I hit here is going to be congruent to the first angle I hit here. First angle I hit here is congruent to this one. And we can always look back at our little chart that we made. See how angle D and angle H are congruent?
Yeah.
These are like D and H here. They're the same. So we set them equal because they are equal to each other. So how do we solve this? Now we've got a couple of different operations here. I've got 5 times x, and I've got plus 4. Yes, we want to do the opposite of our order of operations. We want to do addition and subtraction first. So minus 4 to both sides. And what is that going to give us? 59 minus 4. 55. So I'm going to bring down 5x equals 55. Now I've got 5 times x. How am I going to get x by itself here? Divide by 5, because division is the opposite of multiplication. So we're going to divide. That will cancel our 5s. And x is going to equal what? 11. Good. Is anybody confused about any step of that process there? I'm happy to explain more if we need it. More than happy. Okay, guys. Sounds like they're partying over there. All right. Any questions about number 3? All right. So number 4. This one's a little tricky. Let's talk about it, and then this is going to be your exit ticket. Number 4 is going to be your exit ticket. So I'm going to write that up here. Exit ticket. And this is day 5. Okay. So let's think about this before I set you off to try this on your own. How would we figure this out? I think you guys have the knowledge to do this, but we haven't done one like this.
Oh,
It's tricky.
We do like number 4
Say it again.
on what we recommend and then we do not. Well, that was this number 4. So
Yeah.
it has 4 numbers that equal up to 1 instead of 3.
Yeah, so it's kind of like number 4 on our do now. We've got angles that are on a straight line. These two added up to 180. Now we've got these 3 angles that add up to 180. You could also do it in a slightly quicker way.
Would
If
it
you
not be
don't.
90 since there's that square?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it wouldn't be
I
90.
was just thinking
Yeah.
of doing it adding like equal 90.
Yes, so there's a couple ways we could do it. Both ways are going to be perfectly, they'll work perfect. We could say 90 plus 4x plus 1 plus x plus 14 equals 180. Or if you don't want to worry about that, I know that since this is a straight line and this side is 90 degrees, this other side is also 90 degrees because 90 plus 90 is 180. So I could just set 4x plus 1 plus x plus 14 equals 90 and solve for x like that. So either way is going to get you the right answer, but I'm going to let you guys go ahead and work on that. If you have questions, let me know. But that is all for today. Once you finish, you are free to go. And I'm going to end that recording there.